Welcome to Vermontitude, a collaborative effort between Great Eastern Radio, the Brattleboro Reformer, and BCTV to bring you the stories behind the stories on the topics you want to learn more about. Because there's always more, so there'll always be Vermontitude. Hosted by me, Peter Fish Case. Welcome to Vermontitude. New episodes drop every Tuesday and can be found by going to vermontitude.com, reformer.com, brattleboro.tv, and locally on Comcast Channel 1078. We come to you from our studios at the Innovation Box on Landmark Hill. I'm Peter Fish Case, and each week I cover the topics that are of concern to Windham County and the towns that reside within its border. So we'll be doing a series of interviews with some of the new coming select board members or possible select board members. And the first one is this lady right here, Jill Stahl-Tyler, who is running for a 3-year seat and also the RTM. Welcome to Vermontitude.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
All right. So let's start with the 3-year seat for the Brattleboro Selectboard. Tell me, like, a quick synopsis of why are you running?
So I decided to throw my hat in the ring because I'm concerned about the town.
Okay.
Not necessarily so concerned about the select board. I think you guys have tried really hard in the last couple of years, particularly this last year. But the downtown environment needs to be changed.
Okay.
We're moving in a good direction. I hope we continue in that direction. I just thought it was time for maybe to step back in. I was on the school board before. I've gone away from politics and enjoyed that, not being involved.
I get that.
But kind of felt like I was getting drawn back in.
Okay. And these things can often be motivating in doing that. So what is the one thing you would like to see, say you were elected, what is the one thing that you would like to see in your first year on the board?
So I'd like to go back to look at what's great about our town.
Okay.
I'd like us to spend some time on the positive stuff that we have here, because we have a lot of really unique things that go just for this little town. And I feel like we spent a lot of time arguing amongst ourselves and not moving towards the good things that we could. And I'd like to switch that direction a little bit.
Okay. And I know what you're saying. I keep saying this a lot is you're sort of, when you're dealing with extremes and we sort of have to have this conversation a little bit more centered. I think that is sort of as I understand your platform, the platform in which you would like to be is kind of like, I'm here in the middle. This is where the conversation happens.
I've said often that I think we have a lot of extreme views on one side or another. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot more of us that live somewhere towards that middle. And we need to speak up. Okay. And we need to be a part of it.
All right. Let's chat if we can. You had circulated a petition that has something that you're hoping that the select board will entertain. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So, yes, I put it in front of the select board last Tuesday or 2 Tuesdays ago, and I guess it's on your agenda for next week on Tuesday, or is it tomorrow? What day?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow. We're right
there. Yeah, so we record on Monday, and we publish on Tuesday.
So, yeah, tomorrow night.
And so tonight.
Yeah. So it started because when they talked about the Burlington, the Overdose Prevention Center, or a safe injection site, that was first talked about for Burlington and, quote, somewhere in the southern part of the state. And so Brattleboro was definitely being mentioned. Bennington was being mentioned. And perked up my interest on thinking what that would do to the town. And then it turned out that it was not going to be in Brattleboro, and people told me it was just going to be in Burlington. And I watched the select board meeting, I think around July, and you guys asked. Emily Kornheiser was there and said, what about the town vote that's in it? And she never really answered your question. And so I started looking into it more, and somewhere around November, it was clear. I'm reading the law. It's not in there. There is nothing in there that says that the town gets a vote. And everybody I'd asked in the ensuing months lawyers or legislators are all like, no, but the town gets a vote. It can never happen here. Burlington's the only one that has funding. So I spent a bunch of time reading that law backwards, forwards, upside down. And it has 5 sections, basically, to me. The first establishes what a safe injection site, or they call it an overdose prevention center, is. The second says this is the immunities that have to be given. The third gave the money to Burlington to establish one. The fourth says you can actually or report out all of this data, the statistics I want kept, so that it could be seen if it's working or not. And then the fifth kind of jumped up and suddenly appeared. It was in a different spot earlier, but just suddenly appeared really short, that an existing needle exchange site can become an overdose prevention center. So then to me, that didn't fit with all the information that people were telling me.
Right.
That because if an existing safe needle exchange can become an overdose prevention center, everybody's like, yeah, but you don't have the funding or you don't have that. And I kept asking too, but it's illegal on a federal level. How do we manage to get something that's illegal on a federal level passed in the state? And no one could really answer that one for me either. So I kept watching and I thought, well, maybe the best way to go about this is to have them put back in the town vote. My really big concern is that the town people that live in the town where it shows up should have a voice about what's going into their town. And that seems like a simple thing to me. And so I talked to Nader Hashim and he said, that's in there. And I said, it's an email exchange. And I said, but I can't find it. Please show me. I've read this thing so many times. He goes, well, and he went back and read it and he goes, I'm sorry. I always said I'd be the person that would say I'm wrong when I'm wrong, and I'm wrong. It's not in there. I thought it was in there. They told us it was in there. He said, I commit to you now that I will go back and put that in. So then I felt pretty calm and I'm like, okay. I was thinking of taking it as a petition back in November, December, and had checked in with Bob Fisher and gotten the language and all of that. And okay, that Nader's going to do it, then that's one way. And then somebody suggested, well, why don't you go to the legislators' meeting, see what's going on with that, and just ask all of them, will they support that sort of an amendment into the law? And so I asked, and all the 5 of them were there, and Emily took the answer and spoke for all of them. And she explained 4 reasons why she didn't think an overdose prevention center, safe injection site would ever happen again in any other place. But then she went on to number 5, and number 5 was her point that it's not something that the legislators are trying to do. They're purposely trying to not put into the law anything that would give a town a veto right. And she used the example of Section 8 housing, and that a town that needs to have, that a town like us could be unduly overburdened because the state could say, or other towns would say no, and then the state could try to manage that and spread it around. So I understand what she's saying, but I think this is a different topic than just low-income housing. This is an illegal, on a federal level, idea of putting something in. And if you're going to go to that extreme, I think you should have town voters say yes or no. So at that point, then I was advised by some people in Montpelier, and they said, no, you can, of course, do it, and which Bob Fisher had also advised. 2 different ways. One can be to take it to you as the select board, or get a petition going and get votes. But of course, by that time now I'm into January. Right. And so we only had 8 days or 9 days to actually try to get, I think it's 460. It changes according to the actual number of registered voters and anybody who's signed up recently or died or whatever. So it's 5%. So that was a pretty big ask, but still within those days, we got 52% of the amount needed. 228, I think, is what we collected. So I guess now it's going before the select board tonight, and we will see whether the select board says, yeah, you know what, the town people should have a vote. The actual petition doesn't ask whether safe injection sites are great ideas or bad ideas. It just says that the town of Brattleboro should be able to advise the state that, hey, we want to vote before you put something like that here.
All right. Well, let's bring it back to the select board and the things that I think you've done a pretty good job of laying out why you want to run. But regardless of this isn't like a one issue kind of sort of a thing. So what are some of the other issues that you see like that you would want to maybe have a voice in?
So fiscal responsibility is big to me. Obviously, a budget is affected by a lot of different things that are kind of beyond control. There's contractual obligations to town staff. There's the price of materials and road building. There's the health insurance that's always a killer for every budget, for every place. But I do want us to pay attention to that. And I want us as a town to be a little forward thinking. I like the idea of having a plan that goes out further than what we're doing right now. But I also like the idea of investing in stuff that's going to be a draw to bring people to this area. Again, focusing on what's great about Brattleboro and what's unique and what we can capitalize on. I'd love to see our downtown be always full of stores, that we as a town are encouraging it. When reading up on some stuff from Ogden, Utah, and some really cool things they did and how they were hyper-focused on making sure that the town was always vibrant downtown. The first thing that needed to happen to do that is where I think we're going with the Brat team that you guys have put in place and the change with the substation that hopefully will stay in the budget and make it through representative town meeting. So once we have a downtown again that feels like someplace that we can all go and feel safe and comfortable, then we continue that and we expand out and we keep working on making it the vibrant place that it can be.
So it takes a little effort, and this is the kind of thing that you hope to kind of, if you will, infuse some energy back into downtown, kind of steal back some of that narrative that our downtown is now suffering, and sort of say, no, we know we can be better. We know we can do better. We know we can remain compassionate, and help those who need it and who want the help. And that's what you're sort of hoping.
Yeah, and we have to have a balance here. And I quote John Cougar Mellencamp from Between a Laugh and a Tear. I know there's a balance. I see it when we swing past. And I think we've swung too far past. When I have spoken out, I tried not to for a long time, but I finally had to here just recently in the paper. When every action has another reaction to it. And when we're having people say things like, I'm scared to go downtown. My family's going to go to Greenfield to the movies instead of to the Latches. The teachers are picking up needles before they let their kids go out on the playground. The principal is having nightmares all night because she's trying to figure out how she can keep the kids safe because there's a drug zone right behind where they're selling. When a child at community house finds a dead body in the gazebo. Those are issues and they're real. And I feel like our conversation in town has been when people say those things, they're told they're not compassionate.
Yep.
And we need to come back to that balance of who all are we being compassionate to? In being super compassionate to one side, are we still being compassionate to the other side? And again, in that middle, find that balance back. And I don't think you could stop Brattleboro from being compassionate.
No. It's one of the things we love about this community.
Exactly. And it's a unique, quirky little town that prides itself on accepting everybody, that keeps itself open and giving. And I think that's fantastic. There's also a balance. And when that's all somebody sees when they come to the town, I mean, the story of the little 4-year-old picking up the needle as her parents are coming out of Mocha Joe's, that's awful.
Yep.
And that's the type of stuff that we don't want about our town, that we need to make sure that we're moving in a different direction away from that. So finding the balance is not an easy overnight thing. I give kudos to the select board for moving that agenda forward and looking at how do we make this a safe place for all of us. And once it is a safe place, then we go to that next step. And how do we build and keep going forward?
Okay. Jill, I appreciate you jumping on Vermontitude, making the time to come in.